Today's reading is Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. The Lord makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters. You restore my soul, O Lord, and guide me along right pathways for your name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup is running over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Sebastião Salgado returned to his childhood home in Brazil in 1994 after covering the war in Rwanda as a photojournalist. He had been devastated by what he had witnessed during the war, but what he saw in Brazil was, he says, just as devastating. The lush rainforest he remembered was gone. The land had been deforested in order to feed the cattle on his family's ranch. Sebastião needed to heal, and so did the land. His wife, Lelia, suggested they start planting trees. Over the course of about 20 years, with the help of many volunteers, they planted roughly 2 million trees on 17,000 acres, using only seeds from the area. By 2019, the forest was lush again and animals had returned, including many species of endangered animals. Now that area has protected status. But what is 17,000 acres when the Amazon is losing 10,000 acres a day? It would make sense to throw up our hands. 20 years to replace 2 days worth of damage. And yet, the Salgado's example tells us something about how to steward what we have responsibility for. And it tells us something about healing and restoration. Injury often happens in the blink of an eye, but its effects linger. But because injury is often so sudden, we expect that healing should be quick too. But it's not. And our impatience with ourselves and with the world around us only makes it worse. But patience is required for healing. So is rest. And for those of us who are always on, always going, restoration seems like a luxury. But it isn't for God. You might remember it's actually even a commandment. Restoration and rest are an essential part of the rhythm of life. Essential, not optional. The Lord is my shepherd. God leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. Sebastião had returned from documenting a horrific war to find the land of his childhood had been destroyed. But neither he nor the land were too far gone for God. The healing of the land was part of his own healing as well. It did not happen instantly. It took time. But with patience and persistence, restoration became possible. Even on the days when we feel the most lost, we are never too far gone for God. We are always in God's embrace. There is never a point when restoration isn't possible because God promises we matter too much. There is no part of our human experience that God will not experience with us. God walks with us through every piece of bad news, through every despairing season, through every time when we feel completely lost, accompanying us out of the valley and up onto the mountainside where we can look out over all that has happened. Only in beholding the scope of destruction can we appreciate and experience the depth and breadth of the restoration. So particularly today, if you are feeling exhausted or spent or overwhelmed, at the constant drum of bad news. Remember this truth. You cannot skip through the valleys. That you are created by a loving God who has called you good. And you are loved. Your restoration is important to God. Your wholeness is important to God. God is with you in the valleys just as surely as God is with you in the peaks. And nothing can separate you from God's love. Amen.